Helen, hello. It is so good to see you. Thank you for taking the time to join me for 5 curly career questions.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome. So we first met professionally when I started at Westpac. I think it was HR manager and supported the business area that you worked in. Now, our backgrounds are similar in terms of we're both in financial markets, wherein I was in, you still are. And you've been at Westpac now for over 20 years. But you have had, and during that time, you've had a number of different roles and worked on several projects. So I guess that's kept things interesting. And you also attained your MBA from the University of Auckland while you were still working. And now you are the Managing Director for Consumer Bank and Wealth at Westpac, New Zealand. So, are you ready for your 5 curly career questions?
I'm ready. Hit me.
Okay, perfect. All right, first question. Tell me about a time when you experienced a career transition or a time where you maybe felt a bit stuck.
Yeah, so probably like my biggest career transition was making the decision to move out of financial markets. I have been with Westpac just over 20 years now, and for about 17 of those years I was in the one division doing lots of different things, but still with the same people, type of work. And I kind of got to the point where I could do the job in my sleep, but it wasn't challenging me mentally. And I just felt that I was getting a bit bored and I needed a change. And I also had people behind me that coming through that were really capable. And, you know, I felt like I wanted to give them an opportunity to step up into something new as well. And just felt that, hey, I was actually a pretty capable leader and I wanted to have a much bigger impact. So I knew that to do that, I would have to leave financial markets and go into another area. And I just randomly decided, now is the time. I'm going to take the plunge. And I moved into a different division, into business banking. And that was about 4 years ago now. And I'm now on my third role since moving out of financial markets. So I think it takes you a long time to make that first move. But once you do, it just gives you the confidence to try a lot more new things. So yeah, I'm really glad that I did. Not a decision I took lightly, but one, I'm really pleased I made.
Yeah, I think taking that first step is often the hardest thing, right? Once you've done it, it's like, oh, okay. Cool, thank you.
Why didn't I do it earlier?
So, second question. Yeah, precisely, yeah. So, second question. Our priorities change, right? So what's important to us when we start out on our career path or, in our 20s, it changes, it evolves over time. So in what one way have your priorities changed?
I think since making the career change, I've probably had to put the big girl's pants on and do things that I otherwise would have shied away from. So, one example from that, I'm quite introverted. I now have to do quite a lot of public-facing sort of speaking work in my new role. And previously I would have just said, no, I'm not doing that. But, some of these things you just have to face into and you actually get quite good at because you do quite a lot of it. So, I think it's just about forcing yourself to out of your comfort zone to try new things. It often goes better than you think.
True, very true. Cool, thank you. So your third question, what are a couple of resources or maybe pieces of, key advice that you have had along the way?
Yeah, so look, in terms of resources, I'm a reasonably avid reader of Harvard Business Review papers. I quite like those. I find they're quite on point for what's going on in current times. I also regularly listen to a podcast called No Bullshit Leadership. That's by Martin Moore out of Australia. And I find those just really practical and despite the Aussie accent, pretty practical and just bite-sized as well and really relevant leadership content. So yeah, I love that podcast, and he's also got a course that I've done, Leadership Beyond the Theory, which is probably the most practical leadership course I've ever done. So yeah, I really like those resources. In terms of advice, probably some more recent advice, and it wasn't just to me directly, but to our team, was just the need to sweat the small stuff. So I think there's lots of little things that happen each day that you could just walk past and not worry about, but my boss is always like, yeah, no, you need to sweat the small stuff, because all of those things added up together really help to drive culture. And it's things like when people say, hey, you guys, and I'm like, and girls. So it's just those little things.
Nice. Yeah. So you know me very well, and so you know how much I hate, loathe, and detest coriander. So if we think about that intensity of feeling, that hate, loathe, and detest, converting that to a work setting, professional environment, what would be your coriander equivalent?
Hate, loathe, and detest. That's quite strong, but I do know how you feel about coriander. So look, for me, it's people that just whinge about problems and wait for someone to come in and solve them, and just aren't part of the solution themselves. That probably I struggle with that. I'm quite solution focused, and as Kamala Harris is saying as part of her campaign at the moment, just do something. I think we just need to take ownership for being part of a solution.
Yeah, taking that accountability is so important, right? So, your fifth question. You'll be well aware that a koha in Maori culture is the equivalent of kind of like a gift. So using that concept loosely, what koha would you give to somebody right now who's going through a career transition, or maybe they're stuck at a bit of a junction in their career?
Some time with you, Morph. I mean, we've got a live example of that when my sister was going through a career transition. She'd been on maternity leave, come back, and wasn't sure what her next step was. And so my gift to her was a few hours of coaching with Helen, because I just feel that having that time and space to talk to someone independent that doesn't have any agendas. And she's not paying me to say this, by the way. This is she doesn't know I was going to say
I'm really
this.
not. I didn't know that was coming.
Really valuable. And quite often people, they don't know the value themselves. So when someone gives it to them, they really appreciate it. So I think it's a good gift.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for the plug. I didn't set that up, but obviously I do completely agree with you on that. Yeah, for sure. Okay, moving on. So that was the end of your 5 curly career questions, but you do have a mystery question that was left by a previous guest, and this is a concept that I borrowed from Stephen Bartlett, whose podcast I really enjoy listening to. So you ready for your mystery question? So
Hit me.
We all have busy lives. And so what have you learned about how to prioritize yourself and your own well-being?
Not my strength, and certainly am no role model for work-life balance, particularly in this new job. But I think what I do know about myself is that I'm just a much calmer person when I've had some time to myself in the mornings, and so I'm a regular meditator. So I get up quite early, but I just create that time and space to just have a break to myself. And I know that when I haven't done that, I'm a lot more agitated and short. So I just make sure that I get that time to do that in the mornings. That makes a difference for me. But I'm a work in progress in terms of work-life balance, that's for sure.
I think many of us are. But thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. So you will have the opportunity, you do have the opportunity to leave a question as well for our next guest. So that was your 5 curly career questions. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to see you and hear your answers.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Morph.